No
Take it
worries.
over.
Take from the top.
Thank God I realized a minute in.
Hey, everybody. We are at take 2. Welcome back to Jake and Casey's podcast.
Sweating in the garage.
2 dudes chilling in the garage, but we're not gay.
Definitely not gay. I mean, Jake is kind of sometimes,
gay.
but we're not gay together.
Yeah.
Like, you know, hey,
That's true.
you be gay, I ain't going to be gay with you. It's all
I'm
good.
gay on my own time.
Yeah.
It's true. No, it's weird because, like, being bi is pretty weird because, like, it's a thing I didn't pick that both sides will judge you for. Like, you'd think the gays would be like, hey, you're one of us. Wrong. I've been called half gay by them. I'm like, wow, all right.
You gotta pick a side.
Yeah. It's also a very Hogwarts thing to say. Like, they're going to call me a mudblood next.
Yeah, that's pretty much America summed up today, right? You gotta pick a side. You can't be a little of this and a little bit of that.
It's, I think people get mad at me because I'm just like a common sense person who thinks issue by issue, and I don't just like blindly follow one party's values. And I I go like, I'm Jewish, so I care about Israel. That's probably in line with the Republicans. I don't know why the Democrats haven't been in line with the only stable democracy in the Middle East that is founded after the Holocaust, persecuted historically group of minorities. So I don't know why that wouldn't vibe with their victimhood mentality. Like, you'd think we would be number one on their team of allies.
Yeah, but, I'm looking at your complexion, and that is why, like...
It might be just that. Like, they're like, well, victimhood narrative.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where do you fall on that victim scale?
Which is pretty fucking arrogant. It's like, you guys don't realize you're being white saviors right now? Like, which is also something you guys think is bad, so...
But they do it so frequently,
Oh, we gotta save these people that we actually know nothing about, who don't share our values, and fucking hate us, by the way. I mean, the Israel-Palestine shit is crazy. Like, I'm in favor of a 2-state solution. I support Israel's right to exist. And then liberals will look at me like I'm fucking crazy. And it's like, no, like, that should just be a basic thing everyone agrees on. It used to be.
Yeah, see, the problem with their worldview is that they don't really pose a good solution. It's just like, well, tell the Jews to leave.
I don't like this.
Or tell the colonizers to leave. And it's like, well, where are they going to go?
But I'm issue by issue. People will be like, Israel's really bad. And it's like, no, the settlements are really bad. Israelis themselves, a lot of them are really good. Like, I have family there. Those are good people there who deserve to live. And, and it's just ridiculous that, like, Hamas can rape children. They can, kidnap, torture, murder, use human shields, kill that room full of babies, take hostages for years. And, like, none of that gets addressed by liberals or defended or explained. And then Israel can, like, I don't know, shoot a human shield or something. And they're like, whoa, what the fuck, Israel? It's like, this is such a fucking bullshit, like, purity double standard.
Yeah, there's no consistency. It's sort of...
and it's coming from Americans. Like, I'm sorry, we're imperialist number one. Yeah, it'll be white women from America who's like, you have just no stake in this, and your country is way more imperialist.
I love America.
Yeah.
And I think that all of the stuff that goes on in the Middle East, for some reason we're married to hyper focusing on that, and I think it's to distract from the destruction that our political leaders have put America through. So it's like, hey, if there's one more thing we can divide people on, let's have it be something over there. Because at the end of the day, like, let's take all the religions and all the everythings out of that. Let's take you, the viewer, your day. How often are you really invested about what's going on over there? Like, do you care enough to fight on either side? And I think the answer for like 99% of people is no.
Yeah.
So hating somebody over here for holding a certain point of view seems, I don't know, borderline retarded.
Yeah.
Because as much as it makes you feel better to be like, hey, look, Israel's the bad guys, or hey, look, Palestine's the bad guys.
Anybody who's pro-BDS, anybody who is, anti-Israel, first of all, it's weird because you're not anti any other country. Like, there are eviler countries in the world. Like, we could all agree North Korea is pretty bad. No one goes, yeah, I'm anti-North Korea. And it's like, they're North Korea! and people are anti-Israel? Like, fuck you. That's crazy.
North Korea is a funny one.
Yeah.
I think a lot of weird things, and I've thought you could send yourself down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole where you go, what if everything that we've been told about North Korea is wrong and they're flourishing? Now, do I believe that? No, not really, because I've heard of people that have escaped North Korea and they describe it as a terrible communist regime.
Right.
But the amount of media propaganda that we all get, it's really, really hard to take a firm stance on stuff that's not occurring in your country.
It's true.
So, like, at the end of the day, maybe don't burn down Teslas, because that's where all of this stuff leads to.
It's also just shitty because, like, I don't know. Like, at one point, the Democrats were the party of the working class, and it was a group that I could identify with, and it was, you know, it represented most of Americans, whether you were a minority, whether you were a white Jewish guy, whether you were, you know, whatever you were, it just usually represented you. And then if you were very rich and you wanted to keep your money, you voted Republican.
Right.
And people just sort of respected the distinction between those two parties. And it existed like that for a long time. And now it's like, it's really fucked because I like some things that Democrats do. Like, I think people should have universal health care. I also hate, like, the welfare state they're creating. I don't know. It's weird to me. Like, I think people shouldn't die of, you know, treatable illnesses. But I also don't think we should, like, if you don't work, you should just get shit for free.
Right.
It's like, I wish there was some system where, like, you work for the benefits you accrue. Because because Republicans have kind of another point about we don't want to be a socialist welfare state.
No.
You know?
No, because then all the people that aren't working...
I work really hard for my money.
For free.
I don't want to give it all away to somebody to smoke a crack pipe. I get that argument.
Nobody does.
Yeah.
And even with universal health care, see, the way I view the world is that the government should have less control over absolutely everything while still maintaining some regulations. Now, universal health care, I think the end game, you know, while it's a nice theory, it's what government does with it that scares the living shit out of me. Like, you have universal health care in Canada. If you talk to a Canadian that's being honest, they'll tell you...
It's not being done right.
Right.
I think if you had a candidate run with an actual viable plan, I should have said, like, if you can execute it at the same standard of care that you can pay for it at, then that I'm on board with. I'm not down with, like, these bread lines outside of hospitals.
No, absolutely.
That. You know, like, that's bullshit.
If it could just be like, hey, a little bit of your taxes, everybody's taxes goes to this, and, like... We all are treated pretty equally with healthcare. Yeah. What I think the government looks to do, you got to remember, the people in power look to control the people that aren't. So where it ends up, I think the last phase of that is with what Canada's got, which is called MAID, Medical Assistance in Dying, where they decide, well, you're too much of a burden on the system to continue treating you. So we have a suicide pod or unaliving pod for YouTube, and you get to go in it because... You know, ultimately... Which is like, if you want to do medical euthanasia, I support your right to do that. But mandatory medical euthanasia that's where it gets sounds like Nazism. Yes. Like, it sounds absolutely insane. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that, you know, I think with all things... That's so scary. Like, that's an Orwell movie. Right. Like, that's a fucking science fiction book. Like, that's so scary that we're... that dystopian. Holy fuck, that's dark. And I think a lot of people don't realize what Canada's done with that. I've told a couple people that lean more liberal about MAID, which is Medical Assistance in Dying, and that they've opened up the conversation to include mature minors. Right. And it's like, that's where you go, no, absolutely not. Because what I could tell you, when I was like 12, if I would have been able to make that decision, I would have. And I'm glad now that I didn't. But the end goal of the people in power, it's not a right or left thing. It's sort of like this cabal of people that are in power. The end goal seems to be to reduce the population by whatever means necessary and to get you to, like, gladly and thankfully walk into their pods. So, yeah, we veered off into dark territory, but
Yeah.
I think the
it is
end goal,
interesting. I didn't know about the suicide pods.
oh, it's crazy. It's crazy because I'm on the fence with it. I agree with it for people that there is never going to be, like, you're never going to get well. We don't have the medicine. We don't have the technology. You're going to suffer needlessly until you die.
But that's still their call. If they want to go, no, I'm going to draw it out, you have to let them draw it out.
Right. You can't just be like, hey, you know what? You're costing the government a lot of money.
Yeah.
You go now.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, like, we have to be very careful when we ask for something, because when the government gives it to us, they're going to be concerned with, like, how much money they can steal. And if it starts to chip into what they can steal, they'll kill all of us. You know, Republican, Democrat, it doesn't matter. I've heard a lot of the elites believe that, like, I think they said it's 500 million people is ideal. Well, it's like, you know, kind of ideal for who?
Yeah.
Like, maybe they're easier to control, but, like, I believe...
You mean like in the world?
In the world, yes.
That's a
500 million. That's a small number, dude. We're at 8 billion now.
Yeah. I was going to say 7, yeah.
So that's like 7.5 billion people that they got to kill.
It's really bad.
And I don't completely understand it, but I understand enough to know that, like...
So is this like theory? What's this on?
This is like the Bill Gates theory. What do they call themselves? It's like the rational atheist theory. Yeah. The rational, like, World Economic Forum theory is that the right amount of people is 500 million. And that's not a lot. I mean, that's like, all right, well, when you have to decide, like, who is it that dies, like, that sort of paints with the brush of, we got to kill as many people as possible to get to that. And, like, if you really think about it, how would the world function with 500 million, right? Like, it depends on, I wouldn't want to be
They would just hoard the wealth, and then the other people would die.
I think they get bored that there were so few people. Like, you need conflict,
output,
right?
GDP, everything is just cut. I mean, whatever world you have, it's like going back to the Stone Age.
Right. Except for these people. That's why they want robots.
But how do they scale that even? Like, you
robots.
could set it... I guess, but you could set it up so that, like, you could probably have a really good quality of life for, like, 10, 20 years. But then your machines break down, you have no one to work the factories, and then how does anyone replace your fancy shit? That's my issue with that.
Yeah, I think the goal of... what is it? Post-humanism. That's what the philosophy is. Like that human beings should...
This is all like that Fallout
transhumanism.
Did you watch Fallout?
No, I've not seen that.
Bro, so that whole show hinges on this one corporation engineering nuclear war so that they basically, it's the cancer and the cure thing. So they get Russia and the US they launch all the nukes, basically. They do it they start the war. And they also sell the US government vaults underground.
Oh, very nice.
Of nuclear attack.
Just in case, because it's inevitable, right?
It's like the guy with the box of bulletproof vests outside of a bank being robbed or something. You're like, I got these if anybody needs.
There's this convenient place underground.
Yeah,
somebody's gonna work that place. Though.
It's an awesome show, better video game. But it's frightening how possible something like that could be. Like, there are a couple TV shows that are like 1 or 2 steps from just being real. Right. And, like, there's only, like, a couple technical things holding that back. And it's scary as shit. Like, have you seen The Last of Us?
No, I haven't, but I've heard enough about the show where it's like, I think I get the premise. Yeah, so basically it's a zombie pandemic movie caused by a fungus. And the scary thing is, like, all the shit they say about a fungus, it could totally happen. Like, a fungus could mutate that controls somebody's brain. They've already had parasitic funguses out there. A fungus that does affect the brain right now is psilocybin. So it's like, it's not that far-fetched for a mushroom or fungi to do more than a temporary affecting your brain. And so it's just really interesting. So it gets at it was in food, right? Just like COVID. So there's some spores in cereal or some shit, right? And everybody was eating it. Everyone had the cereal all over the world. So it breaks out everywhere. Worst zombie epidemic ever. Another great video game, really good TV adaptation. And in both of those things, it's like, that could happen 3 weeks from now. And if I just had... The only thing that would need to happen is that I had an information gap and a couple things happened that the government covered up. Yeah, we're on the precipice of it.
There could be some corporation that has vaults everywhere, and they could be, backing the war in Ukraine. And
so
they
likely is.
Yeah, and they might want it to get to a point where we need their vaults or whatever. So, it's fun. People will be like, that's science fiction. It's like, no, it's kind of like history that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, we're pretty close. I think every generation goes through the world is ending. Even from biblical times.
Oh, it's going to end this century. I think it's going to be dramatically reduced. Stephen Hawking made a great prediction. He was anyway before he died, a lot smarter than me. And he said human life is going to dramatically, he said, just be wiped out in this century by either global warming or AI. And it's going to be one of those. I think the world is becoming uninhabitable. Robots are already doing comedy, which I thought would be I thought it would take so much longer for them to get to. That's so human, to be able to be funny.
Mm.
I know a comic who uses AI to write his jokes. I'm like, you don't realize how fucking screwed we are?
Right. Creativity has to be a human endeavor.
Yeah.
Now, the flip side of that is, you could blame the AI when the, woke white women get pissed off at your set, but they're still going to want to direct it at you.
ChatGPT made me say the N-word.
ChatGPT's a white supremacist, needs to be eradicated. Maybe that's how we deal with it.
Mm.
But, yeah, I think, my take on climate change is, the climate's always changing. I believe humans contribute a little bit to it. But I don't know how much. I think it's a mechanism of control, and I believe in humanity's ability to adapt and survive, right? So, I don't think that's going to wipe us out. I think it's going to be the nerds, the technocrats and AI. I think once they're able to achieve robots that can do most jobs,
it's going to be one of those for sure.
Yeah. I'm leaning towards robots right now because, realistically, the world has gone through so many changes throughout human.
This is going to be bad though. I've been doing some research. We're in the middle of the 6th extinction, which the last time that it got this bad was the meteorite that killed the fucking dinosaurs.
But
we've lost more species than the meteor that killed the dinosaurs.
Okay.
In the last century, and it started with Industrial Revolution, and it's frightening how directly pollution and industrialization correlate with just immediate extinction. If you look in England, there's this species of bird. As soon as they started making factories, they just started dropping out of the skies like flies. Just. The whole species wiped out in a year or something. And so you can just see the effects of it. And, it's possible that the governments manipulate the, I think that even if something is true, the government is always playing its own games. I think
100%.
Yeah. So even if, I think global warming is real, I think that it's going to be really bad. But I also think that the government is not invested in protecting us. Look at FEMA, look at all these times we have disasters. Most of the time, all the shit gets passed on to the citizens. It's why do we pay taxes? What the fuck do I help you for?
That's
the flood
really
that
good
came
question.
down. The flood that came down here. Our government had one job: protect us. What did they do? They opened the fucking floodgate,
right?
And they had just my home, a million other homes just flooding. And it's just what the fuck? Your one job was to not have us get flooded. What are you doing? If you're going to open the floodgates, minimum, everybody gets delivered sandbags. Something.
Yeah, no.
Bullshit. You just open the floodgates, no notice. No, you let it spill over because then at least you've contained it for long enough. But if you preemptively, so stupid. That's what I pay taxes for you to decide to flood me?
Yeah, I think we're coming to a point where people are starting to question.
I really questioned the government after that. I was I'm sorry, what the fuck is this? Katrina was terrible, but this, this reminded me if somebody had just decided to blow the levees up or something. Why are we opening the floodgate? There's a reason that's an expression. Don't do that.
Was that Ian, Milton? Which
the
hurricane
one
was that?
This summer?
Milton.
It was a minute ago, and it fucked everyone over. I almost I sustained major damage to my car from just fucking flood damage. That I'm still probably dealing with. My car's fucking making a weird sound. Insurance doesn't cover that bullshit.
Right. Yeah,
bullshit. The city isn't going to be that was our bad. Let me fix your car.
They never admit what is
even
their
though
fault.
It's their goddamn fault.
And that spans, I think what a lot of people need to start getting into their heads is that it's not a Republican or Democrat thing. It's like a governance thing. Yeah. And, bad actors are going to be bad actors.
Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, fuck Congress.
Right.
How do we never pass anything? But whether you are voting in a Democrat or a Republican, their job is to pass legislatures. And, my whole life, Congress has just been fucking gridlocked. And, occasionally you'll get a president like Obama or Trump where for the first couple years of their presidency they can pass things. But otherwise, not really. You don't get... And it's it's bullshit. I don't know. There used to be senators like John McCain and people who would, work with both sides, and they would get bipartisan legislature done that actually benefited people. It's fucked. It's really terrible.
I think the job of future politicians ought to be to whittle away the existing laws we have in place. Almost go, hey, let's put everything on the table that's ridiculous. Because there are a bunch of ridiculous laws which are sort of set up as a trap for, your common everyday person. There are still laws on the books where, you can't walk across this state's line with a bird on your head. Now, does that really affect anybody? No, but the fact that it's there and that, hey, if you walk across, and I'm not saying that this is these states, but, if you walk across the border of Iowa with a bird on your head, they can arrest you. Do we need things like that? So, they ought to really look at, there are so many laws that, every single citizen, no matter how good or bad, you may be viewed in society, is breaking laws every single day because we've got them. And the reason we have them is so that if you touch a nerve or if you start to question the government's power, they can use something against you.
Yeah.
I'm sure just by recording in this garage, we're breaking a law somewhere.
Probably.
Likely. And we don't even know it. And you can't plead ignorance. So, yeah.
Yeah, ignorance of the law is not a defense. It's we have the most complicated legal code
and we have the most laws.
And you provide us no ability to learn the laws. So, how am I, you're telling me I'm supposed to preemptively learn the legal code just in case I'm accused of a crime ever? No, what? Everyone has to be a lawyer just in case they go to jail? That's an insane, fucked up premise to exist in.
Right. That shouldn't be the default state of humanity. The government's role should be to keep things running.
Yeah.
To not, basically just keep things running. Keep our roads up and running. Make sure that the power companies aren't charging us too much.
Yeah.
And, make sure that human flourishing can exist. Make sure that criminals aren't overrunning, every area that you live in. And I view it as it should be a very minimal role. I think what a lot of people have been conditioned with and brought up with is that the government should be a solution to all our problems. Whereas, my point of view, I go, the government is the cause of, the majority of the problems.
Yeah.
Or at least helps to enable the causes of those problems. So, less government good, more government bad is the way I view it. Doesn't matter, Democrat, Republican, I just want less of it.
I just want to be a libertarian.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So what have we got in the news this week?
Oh, okay. Let's see. We got a few more minutes of pop culture and news, and then in 5 we'll have Mikey on. Get to our comedy thing. Or do you want to start talking about comedy now?
Well, we were muted on the burning of Teslas.
So okay, yeah. Let's just run back the Tesla thing really quick. If you guys don't know, people have been burning Teslas, and I'm not a fan of what Elon Musk says, but I always think Tesla cars are cool. I mean, that's good for the environment. They're electric cars. Why the fuck would you burn something that's good for the environment?
And that's not yours.
Just say fuck you to him on Twitter.
Right.
That hurts no environment.
That person that owns the Tesla doesn't 99.99999% chance they don't know Elon.
Yeah.
So you're not hurting Elon Musk by doing that.
You've just released however much pollution is in a Tesla if you
correct.
And good job.
And you've made people hate you a little bit more for no reason. You've also made somebody else's life more difficult.
It's never their Tesla too. It's that's a crime. You can't do it's fucked. So people have been assaulting owners. There's a lot of
there's doxing. There's all sorts of. There's all sorts of problems. And hey, if you want to hate Elon Musk, I guess go for it.
Yeah,
Great.
I mean, you're protected by the same freedom of speech that lets him say fucked up things. And I don't like what Trump says. I don't like what Elon says. But, like, we live in a country where you have to accept both sides of an argument. And if you don't want to hear people you don't agree with, then you can live on an island by yourself. But, like, it's just ridiculous. I mean, we do comedy. How many people do I agree with about, like, anything besides the fact that we both like comedy? Not a lot.
Right.
But that's all you need. You just need, oh, we both want to get through life and just get along. Good. That should be enough for people.
Right. If we disagree on an issue, like, I'm not going to burn your car down.
Yeah.
You know, or like,
I'm not even going to terminate a friendship over it. It's
No.
just like, who cares? People will, like, you know, break up with people and fucking, because it's like, oh, I found out he voted for Trump. It's like,
that's ridiculous.
yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. So that's, I don't know. And I think that it's stupid that, I don't know. I don't like Trump, but, like, I don't, I like people spinning out about things less. Like, I think it's fucked up to, you know, part of free elections is that they elect people you don't like. And you have to troop it out for 4 years. I don't like that he's president again. But, like, I got to deal with it. He won. What am I going to do?
I'm thrilled that he's president.
And that's fine. And we're both allowed to say that. And that's why America's good. The fact that neither of us is offended by that should be normalized and common.
Like,
it's fucking weird.
You know, in my lifetime, back when, you know, back in the 80s, back in the 90s, if you voted for the other party, it was like, all right, that was just a thing you did.
Yeah.
Because realistically, you go about your daily life, and it's not like Trump is in every meeting that you're in, or Trump is in your passenger seat. Like, Donald Trump, take the wheel. We're not at
It's
that.
a question of whether you like his tweets or you dislike his tweets.
Right.
So what? Both cases, you're looking at your own phone. Who gives a fuck?
And
it's just like, yeah.
And either way, you know, like, nobody's going to be happy about everything all the time. And, like, look, dude, he's got like 4 years left. I really like Trump, mainly for the comedy aspect of it.
The one thing he's good for that I agree on with you about is comedy. He's always good for comedy.
But even as somebody that likes Trump, like, I can't wait until we're through this era.
Yeah.
Now, do I think that's going to solve anything? No, because I think that the media is, you know, it's becoming very clear to me, maybe as I get older, that the media is looking to, like, divide American citizens on as many things as possible. So, like, once Trump's gone, they'll find some new evil person to compare to Trump. But, like, I'm happy he's here. I'll be glad when he's gone. Like, I'm not one of these people that thinks, like, yo, he should run for a third term. No, like, if you want the apocalypse to come sooner, champion that. But like, for now, let's get through. Like, you have 3 years, and realistically, if you don't think about him, it's almost like he's not there.
Yeah, honestly, I just don't think about it that much. It's just like, I mean, I try to do the same thing with, like, a lot of topics that bother me, you know, and it's like, maybe that's selfish of me, but, like, I'm not going to be able to change these problems anyway.
No.
So, like, I don't know why I personally should be miserable. Like, how does that help the Democratic Party?
Yeah,
you know?
and it doesn't help.
We'll get him next time, whatever, you know?
It doesn't help to have people at odds with absolutely everything. It's like, yo,
why would I want to disagree with half the people in Florida or more? It's like, no, I'm going to figure out a way for me to keep moving in comedy regardless of who's in office. That's stupid that it should affect me like that.
Right.
I shouldn't have to die on party lines. I'm an issue-by-issue guy. They didn't have my back on Israel.
No.
Why should I feel like, oh, I have to... People will really say in Democratic Party, like, you got to stop being friends with anybody who's Trump, or you got to boycott them.
Yeah,
it's
which
like,
is crazy.
No,
That's
you can
crazy.
just, like, you can get through it. You're going to be okay. You can agree to disagree. That's what America's founded on, and it's fine. You know? It's just ridiculous. Like, I'm sure tons of Republicans were not psyched about Obama, but, like, whatever, you know, they got mad on Twitter, they dealt with it, you know, and it's just weird to just be like, to just fixate and fixate and fixate. And like, I don't think that people stop being friends over Obama or Clinton or any of, like, there was just sort of a like, well, you voted for him, I voted for McCain, I didn't want Obama, I wanted McCain, whatever the thing was, right? But like, it didn't become like this personal.
It wasn't so polarizing.
Yeah, like you're a bad person if you voted for the other guy. It's like, no, I think you just probably have different policy points than me.
And you know? Maybe you just like voted a different. Like, I voted for Obama the first time.
Yeah.
Like, I thought, like, look, I like what he's saying. As uneducated as I was about everything, it was like, I like what he's saying. I'm voting for him.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that most of my friends happen to be Republican.
Is this charging? I see it going down on battery.
It looks like it is not charging.
Okay.
I didn't realize that most of my friends were Republicans,
but
they knew I voted for Obama, and, you know, newsflash, they didn't care like at all. At all. It made no difference with our friendship.
Yeah.
Because, like, realistically, it doesn't change the person that you are.
I totally agree.
That's the way that we should do things.
Yeah.
It just makes sense to me.
Okay, so we're at the point in the episode where we transition to a comedy interview. Our guest for this episode, for this week, is a great friend of ours. He has been doing comedy. Let's see, we took the McCurdy's class together over a year ago.
Oh, shoot, you took it with him?
Yeah.
Nice.
I'd been doing it a year at that point. He had just started. He's a great friend of mine, and Casey's. He's always at all the spots we go to. Really, really funny guy, good observational stuff. His name's Mikey Williams, stage name Mikey Havoc, and he does comedy and music.
All right,
I'm
let's
gonna
bring
call
him
him
on.
right now. Let's hope he fucking picks up.
It is fucking hot in this garage.
It is hot as a
Yeah, it
motherfucker.
is. It was way cooler last week. I was sweating like a hog.
Let's see.
Was he on speaker?
Hey,
What up, Mikey?
what's up, bro?
How are you doing?
Good. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you.
Hell yeah.
How's your weekend been, buddy?
It's been fun. I'm alive.
All right. Was there anything that you were going to do over the weekend that would have killed you? Like anything dangerous?
Nothing other than normal life.
All right.
Hell yeah. So, tell us what's going on in your world. What have you been up to recently in music and comedy?
Let's see. Well, this past week I haven't been sleeping very much. A lot of insomnia time. So, I've been writing a lot.
Hell yeah. That's good. Writing's an important... I would say writing is the most important yet neglected part of comedy. A lot of people will think they can get on stage and just riff. It's like, you can riff for a minute in between bits if it's clear that they like your shit, riff on top of that. But the people that are just like, no, I just kind of say whatever up there. It's like, yeah, you're probably always going to be a whatever comedian then.
Guilty. I've done both. I've done both sides, and I can.
And your better sets are when you've recorded it.
When I write it out. When I run it out beforehand, like when I get up there and I have no idea what I'm going to talk about, I'd say 1 out of 5 times kills. When I've written it out and I have an idea what I'm going to talk about, even if I don't stick to the script exactly, it does go better because I'm not fumbling for the next thing I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Like that's what happens to me if I riff all the time. I come up against that block where it's like, oh shit, I don't know where to go from here.
Mikey, you're a very disciplined writer. You're kind of a notebook guy like Jokums, right?
Yeah, I have a lot of notebooks right now. I need to downsize.
Hell yeah. Are any of them manifestos?
Maybe.
No, that's cool. You don't have to disclose.
Are either one of us on them?
Allegedly.
That's funny. Yeah, allegedly. I find one of the notebooks. I'm like, this is just a list of all the comedians he works with, and
he didn't miss anybody.
2 of them are crossed off already.
Go through each one.
Oh shit!
So where are you performing this week, Mikey?
This week I want to do Big Top Monday, and I'm available Thursday, so I'm maybe
hit Cock and Bull.
Yeah, I might do Cock and Bull.
Or just pull up to McCurdy's. I mean, you might get a set there. Yeah, there's a lot of good options on a Thursday.
Yeah. I had a lot of depression the other week, so like I'm trying to pull out and visit the world.
Yeah.
Pulling out is always good.
Yeah.
You know, like no matter what the situation, pulling out, like
pulling out of Vietnam, pulling out of a woman. It's always positive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Pulling out is usually the right decision.
Yeah.
Like I get depressed too, and I find that it's easy to get stuck in that mindset and like, yeah, you've got to pull yourself out of it. Otherwise, it just gets more and more fatalistic. So I hear you there. Like it can start off with something like minimal. Like, shit, I've got a quarter tank of gas. And if you give me like an hour and a half, I can convince myself that, you know, the Skyway's not that far and I could probably climb those barriers. You know, so
I struggle more with anger than depression. And my therapist told me that anger is actually depression turned inside. Instead of feeling, powerless like a depressed person does, you try to feel powerful like an angry person.
Yeah, I find it when it gets angry, it's like you're trying to control more than you can handle.
Oh, sure. It's about control, definitely.
Yeah.
Big time.
It's like, I had a lot of anger issues before, but it's like, I see the comedy easier, because you're like, I'll just go with the flow.
Oh, comedy is just as important to manage anger as is therapy. Like, there's that great actor, Glenn Howerton, the guy who plays Dennis, and that's kind of based off him. He's an angry guy. And he goes, look, if I didn't do comedy, people wouldn't want to be around me. If I didn't have this tool to diffuse the fact that I sometimes am just too intense and angry, like, they just stopped hanging around me. I realized I have to couch this anger in comedy, or I'm, not going to be socializable.
Yeah, you're getting that outlet. You're finding how to express yourself without breaking shit.
Yeah, right. It's like a VR smash room, right? So it's like I'm destroying stuff with words instead of like destroying my wall,
Which is wild, because I was listening to earlier about like with Colton and Levi, another couple. And it's like, these are just words, bro. Like, I think half of it's kind of like a joke.
Oh, what's going on with them?
Oh, I was listening to your podcast with them, and it's like, some of the people, it's like, they take things a little offensively. It's like, it's words, I'm not trying to kill you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. People get so frustrated. Thanks for listening to our podcast, first of all.
Yeah,
that's
thank
awesome.
you.
But yeah, it's bullshit. It's like, this is comedy. Anger has no place in this. Hopefully you're using this comedy to get over your anger, if anything. That's the only part, But you'll see, I'm not going to name names, but there's a certain Italian who will threaten to kill himself when he bombs. And you don't need to do that. You don't need to insult an audience. You don't need to tell them where this bit has done better before. Like, that kind of fragility has no place in comedy. Like, Friday night, I did this guest spot at Elks Lodge, and they were a terrible crowd. Like, until the guy who ran the space was like, everybody shut the fuck up and listen. They didn't, like, 30 of them listened out of 120. And then when they were told to shut up, they were locked in for the rest of my set. But, like...
How they focused down.
Yeah. And I could tell, the guy went up before me, it really threw him. And he didn't do his whole set. And I could tell he was really impressed that even though dog shit crowd, I got through the set. I didn't say fuck you to anybody. I still did my clean gig,
Even though you wanted to.
Even though I wanted to say fuck you old people, I just fucking kept it funny. And I kept being funny. And it's like, people forget how important that mental toughness is. And just realizing that, like, these old people were not doing this to offend me. Like, no, if you're not doing well in comedy, people aren't doing it to hurt your feelings. You're just not, like, for some reason it's not working. It could be the wrong crowd for your material. It could be that you're having an off night. But, like, either way, getting angry has no part in it.
Yeah, and, like, it's a big perspective thing, because, like,
yeah,
so much, it's like, people talk about AI, and they're like, oh, wow, there's so many, they can think so much. It's like, dude, us people, every single one of us at 8.5 million, billion, whatever, it's like, each one of us is different. We can't focus on the same stuff.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, and like with old people, they're it sounded like at the place you were at, they were there for bingo.
They were there for bingo.
And like the thing to remember with old people is that they're all going to be gone soon.
They're going to die. I wasn't going to shit on them for liking bingo.
They're going to be dead. Like,
did it hurt me a little that they didn't want to hear me? Whatever. You got it. It's it's the nature of the beast. Sometimes, like the night before that, I was at the Aura. Great crowd of old people. They listened to that whole same set. I also got paid, and it was just cool that, like, it's weird. Sometimes you get a good group of old people. Sometimes you get a terrible group of old people. Saturday night, I did a comedy contest. Awesome group of old people. So, like, they're hit or miss.
Yeah, it depends on the old people.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It really does.
It really comes down to the individual.
Yeah.
And, like,
and how the show is run. If the old people are sort of corralled into the good behavior of being part of a comedy show, then they're going to be better. You know, if you sort of McCurdy's it, where you go, hey, reminder, you're kind of here for comedy. We're not going to be talking.
You're not here for pudding or
them.
like bingo.
Yeah, exactly. So like those kind of shows with old people. Yeah, the reason the Saturday one went well is because they really primed them. They got them all to sit up front. They had 100 people there at this festival, and then they were just like, everybody, now it's starting, and remember, here's the rules. And if you don't do that, you're kind of asking for what happened to me Friday night. But,
they didn't set it up properly.
Yeah, you really got to prime it, but that's part of it. You know?
Threaten the old people first. Like, hey, look, if you don't laugh, we're going to take away your wheelchair. And, you know,
maybe not that far. That's a good bit.
If you don't give this guy your attention, you don't have to laugh, but you can't talk during a set. And if you do, you're not wheeling out of here.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that will get the old people in line.
Yeah. Yeah, just some idea of like, the guy just went Friday night, hey, we paid for this, listen up. And then they listened way better for the rest of the set.
He didn't even have to threaten to take away their assistive devices.
So that's what I'm saying. Comedians will either completely ignore a bad crowd or they'll go way too far. And it's like, you can middle path that shit and just kind of be like, hey, can I get some attention here? Like, you know, you can kind of, can I speak to your manager then? You don't have to go full, like, spin out, you know?
You don't have to take their wheelchairs away, but you need to let them know that that's a possibility.
You're a pretty even-tempered comedian. I've never seen you get mad on stage. Has that happened yet?
For me?
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that happen. Yeah.
But at the same time, like I grew up a Jehovah's Witness, and like I had to go up and preach.
Ooh.
So your skin is very thick already, you're saying?
Yeah, it's kind of like I go into that quiet mode just because it's like, I'm going to stay with what I'm saying, but hopefully someone listens.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's tough because it's like on the one hand it gave you mental toughness, but also like your best sets are always when you're like confident, Mikey, and when you're like really, you know, on your mojo. And like I'm sure it's hard to like come out of, let's face it, kind of like a cult. You know, Casey came out of a cult too. You get out of that cult and it kind of sticks with you residually, like, and it kind of holds you back. You know, I think you both have thicker skins, but I think also you do sometimes get this feeling like, why am I doing this? I should be drawing attention to myself.
You know your thinking is different than the default person that hasn't been in one.
I'll notice you purposely try, both of you guys will try to like, I'm not like humble, I'm probably just in the middle, where like I don't feel bad about promoting myself, but I say please and thank you, and I try not to be a big shot. So I'm like somewhere in the middle. But you guys both, like, I noticed this, that getting out of the cult sort of makes you kind of pathologically humble. Like you
because
purposely
you're not
lower yourself. And it's weird. And
you're not supposed to see, and I'm sure you have this too. Like I wasn't in Jehovah's Witnesses, but I was in a different cult that was, it was sort of pseudo-religious, but they focused a lot on character traits. And any sort of like taking pride in what you did was seen as arrogant, was seen as a sin.
Yeah.
So if you're so if you're too proud of yourself, you're a bad person. And
pride is a sin, and it's like no, knowing your value is different than pride. Pride is up here where you go, oh, I'm better than people.
Right.
But being honest with yourself, that's just level. That's just like, oh, I'm seeing myself for what I am. You know, it's the same way that, like, if you go to the gym and you look good, you go, hey, I have abs, unless you have body dysmorphia.
Right.
Like, so they gave you, like, self-esteem type shit that sticks with you, I think.
They tell you if you're proud of yourself that you like, that it's a sin.
Yeah.
So, and unfortunately, when you're indoctrinated with that, even though you know, like, hey, you should take some pride in some of the things you do.
Yeah.
You almost feel bad even saying it. Like, I had a good set is a tough thing to even say when you had a good set.
Yeah.
Like, there's a little pit in your stomach, and I think that's just what happens from indoctrination.
Yeah. No, it's true. I noticed that you guys both are much better at giving compliments than, like, taking them.
Yeah, I'm not good at taking them.
And you'll start
You're not good at taking them either,
whatever.
are you, Mikey?
That's like, I had someone, like, come up to me like, it's a good job on, like, my face. I'm like, oh.
Right, you don't want to accept it.
Yeah,
you don't expect it. You're like, was it good? Sure.
Right.
I heard laughs, but inside.
Do you feel, I mean, for people who don't know, is it okay to say, first of all, you have autism, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, is it ever hard working in a business so filled with strangers as a person with autism? Do you find that difficult, or do you not have a problem with that?
It's, well, for me, like, generally for me, I have, like, a rule of three.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, I go somewhere, I watch. I go again, get a little farther. And after the third time, I'm like, okay. And it's more of, since I started.
Like desensitization, like exposure therapy.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
And with this, like, I'm trying more to, like, just hit it, going to, like, say, like, Pocketbowl. I haven't been there yet, but like, I just want to go for the first time.
Dude, you'll love that. It's just a smaller Big Top, so like the room is littler, so the crowd looks bigger. And Drew Warren, shout out Drew Warren and Jim Shy, they run that spot. They're both like they're both at McCurdy's a lot. Drew works at McCurdy's, so it's like a good spot to show face at.
Well, I've heard it's really good. So
yeah, totally.
Towards that.
I'll be there this Thursday. We should hit that up. You should come too.
We'll see.
Hell yeah.
We'll see what my work week pans out as. It's been, we're going through a certification, like this quarter, so they have me late a lot of nights. I work at an
Casey's like,
international
ooh, a quarter.
Yeah.
Saving up for these quarters. We're really talking.
I want a bonus when it's all done. See, it's even hard for, yes. And it's hard for anybody that's indoctrinated to ask for a bonus or ask for a raise. Like, it's surprisingly hard because any sort of sense of self-worth,
because it's all derived of understanding your value,
right?
So it's, I'm sure, I mean, both of you guys, like, I don't see, like, the reason I have spots a lot of times is because I'll walk up to whoever the gatekeeper is and go, hey, please watch my set tonight. Long term, I want to do more than this open mic here, like whatever, whether it's a showcase, 30 set hosting, whatever. And like, you guys got to plug that, because like I think that's what the cult kind of did to you guys, where like you need to have this pluck and grit and self-starterness in this business, where you just make your own opportunities, because you're more ready than you think. Both of you could be walking up to club owners and being like, "Hey, could I do a guest spot? Watch my open mic tonight. See if I'm ready for a guest spot on one of the shows." Because you both can do guest spots right now. So if you just start grinding at places and saying like, "Let me know when the opportunity is," it helps a lot. That's something I noticed Colton is like pretty good at that also. And you can kind of tell who has been through the ringer and has lower self-esteem by kind of who will just walk up and ask. You skip the line a lot of the times. You know, if you apply yourself, they don't know you're on the radar until you put yourself in front of them. You know?
Everyone's looking at something different until they see it up front.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's all about appearances and showing face and just reminding them like, hey, I'm in this. This is long haul. You can get in on, you know, my success, or you can watch it from afar. But either way, I'm doing this.
Oh yeah. And that's part of the thing I like about comedy is, like, I heard like before, like, we're all competing against ourselves.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't feel competitive with other people.
Yeah, I feel competitive with my last act. Like, was I funnier than I was last week?
That's all it is. Am I funnier than yesterday? Yeah.
It's cool because you can, like, actually support each other without being like, I want to kill you.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. It's great. That's pretty unusual. There's not a lot of art forms or mediums where people get together and do that. That doesn't happen a lot.
Right, and there's so many, it's so expansive, because, like, Mitch Hedberg is very different than Shane Gillis.
Yeah, oh yeah,
but,
they're
like,
never going to feud about it or something.
But it's the same genre, you know? So it's like, a horror movie is different than an action movie.
Yeah.
A romance movie is different than a Marvel superhero movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think about it like music. Like, the Beatles are never getting in the way of Frank Sinatra. It's a completely different
for
demographic.
Everything, yes.
You know? You know, like old people liked Frank, younger people liked the Beatles. So they never had to fight about anything. It was a different market share.
Well, that helps, because
it's
brutal.
Yeah, you got to find your niche. I think that as you get more confident, my hope for you is that you kind of become like Preston Canavan or Mitch Hedberg, you know, one of those kind of guys who leans into his own awkwardness to make that the gimmick. And you can sort of capitalize on how, for people who don't know, Mikey looks like he's 14, but he's 37. And, like, I just want to see you lean so hard into
Yes,
that because
and-
it's funny. Like, there's comedy there. Like,
Absolutely.
I thought your wife was your mom when I first met her.
And
last
when it-
weekend, this last weekend, we went to a very deep meditation retreat at Daytona.
Yeah.
Hotel guy's like, "Are you 16?" He's like, "How old are you?"
See, yeah, you got to do bits like that. When you first started at McCurdy's, you had a bit about Crocs or something, how you seem like a kid, and like I worked that more in because it's probably the first thing people think when you get on stage.
It's just crazy because like you look so young. I'm like, man, you don't know what my 20s were. Shit, like I had it's like fast food, alcohol, cigarettes,
Yeah.
pharmaceutical drugs. Like what did I not take that would be bad?
Yeah.
Right, and being awkward is just like a thing, you know.
Yeah.
Like everybody feels awkward at some point. But like, if I had to think of like awkward as a person, and I don't mean any offense by this, but it would definitely be you, you know. And like, I think that's not necessarily a bad thing, you know. Like, hey, you like Jake said, you could really lean into that, and it's friggin' hysterical.
Like, you know how The Office or Curb Your Enthusiasm is funny because it's awkward? I feel like I see that potential for you, where like you capitalize on that, and it becomes sort of you're the bit on some level. Like, you know how Tony G is sort of this cartoonish Mexican, and like you talk to him off stage, and he's not really like, oh, Chico Pico, you know, like.
I bring
Yeah.
dog and
Yeah.
hey dude, what's up?
Yeah, right. He brings it way down when he's not on stage, you know? And so, like, there's a version of you where I think you can get to that point where, like, Preston Canavan has autism, and his opener, sorry, Preston, is he starts his thing being like, I have autism. You might notice that I do anything autistic, like, and then he ducks all the way down. He's a tall, skinny guy, so he ducks all the way down to the ground and screams at the top of his lungs in his hands. He's like, ah! So if I do anything, you know, weird like that, that's just, you know, my autism. So like, if you could just like capitalize on your mental illnesses and your interesting look, like, I think that would just murder.
Yeah, and that's part of that, like, self-doubt, all those fun things from the cult and everything. It's like, you're not supposed to be you.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the one thing they drill into your head is that
I
like,
think that's the
Yeah.
universal.
Yeah.
Not supposed to be you. You're supposed to be whatever they
us. You're supposed to be us and part of the collective, and like
Yeah.
you're a cog in a machine, and you need to accept that, and like don't think that you're working any harder than anybody else. Like
Yeah.
you're
And-
necessary but replaceable.
Right.
That type of
You're
shit.
either
Yeah.
useful and not bad, or you're useless and bad. There's
Right.
no like positive world where you feel good about yourself, which is
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like, that sucks.
Yeah.
Like, you did something good. All right, move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
You did something bad. You're going to hell, bro.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yo, you definitely are.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be miserable down there.
It's gonna burn. Couple Jews, Mikey, we're all going to hell anyway.
Dude, I'm going to heaven. I'm doing whatever I can to go to heaven.
You're gonna convert to Christianity at the last second.
My parents already converted me to it. You know, they say it was to save my immortal soul. I say it was to get out of paying me for a bar mitzvah.
That's funny.
Dude, it was at 12.
They Jewed you out of
They
your
Jewed
own
me
bar
out of my own
mitzvah.
bar mitzvah
That's
at
the
12.
most Jewish thing ever. You're
Yeah.
kind of more Jewish than bar mitzvah.
And I don't believe the conversion because it didn't amount to a change in their behavior. You know,
Did they circumcise you at least?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
you're Jewish
circumcised.
then.
Yeah. Abraham looks fondly upon me.
Wait, if you're circumcised, is that a Jewish thing?
He
Yeah,
invented that,
that's
bro.
where it came from.
So, like, what? You would have to, like, stitch it back on?
I mean, you'd have to find it first. You know, it'd have to be yours.
Can you imagine that movie? I'm trying to track down.
Oh,
foreskin.
dude.
Just Liam Neeson. I'm looking for my foreskin.
I have a very specific set of skills. It's matching DNA.
I have a very
of foreskins.
specific penis that I need matched to this foreskin.
I have a theory that like the tunnels underground in New York City are where Mount Foreskin lies, and that's where we put all the foreskins. And like you've got, it's like needle
What
in
if there's a
haystack.
monster that's created from all of the assembled Orthodox?
Oh, there most certainly is. It's a golem. You know, there's a golem protecting it.
Just living off of rats.
Yep. Well, what is it? Golem. Golem.
Yeah, close enough.
Yeah, close enough.
Screw German pronunciation.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say their bullshit
Big giant
language,
thing
right?
to protect the chosen people
Yeah.
and kill the Nazis. So if you want a good pop culture reference, it's Supernatural. Yeah. Supernatural has a golem in one of them.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good show.
It's a great show. You watch Supernatural, Mikey?
I've seen a lot of my wife likes that show.
Hell yeah.
Excellent show.
That's what's up. So, do you want to plug anything before we wrap this up?
Let's see. Other than I'm going like Big Top and stuff.
Where's that at?
Lakewood Ranch.
That's right.
Big Top.
What day?
Tomorrow.
Fuck yeah, Mondays.
Tomorrow.
9 up 7, I think.
Yep.
I'm not sure, but it's gonna be fun.
7. Sign up 7. Go up at 8.
Yeah.
That's what's up. You can see Mikey there. You can see me there.
See me there.
Hell yeah. See
Yep.
Casey. And he goes to All Stars too. Shout out to
All Stars in Port Charlotte on Tuesday. I don't where you live at, Mikey? You're in Sarasota, Bradenton. Okay.
Hell yeah. Support Mikey and Bradenton comedy. Do you want to shout out a link to your music before we call this?
Right now I'm just on I'm trying to start TikTok stuff.
What's your TikTok? What's your Insta? Shout that out.
Mikey Havoc.
Hell yeah. Give him a follow, people. He's a good guy. Very talented.
AJVOC.
Yeah, that's correct. Hell yeah. Thank you so much, Mikey Havoc,
thanks
for
for calling
coming
in,
on.
bud.
Thank you for having me.
Hell yeah.
See you guys later.
Later.
Yeah, for sure. Until next time, brother.
All right.
Alrighty. That is the end of episode 3. Thank you very much. Keep it motherfucking real.
All right.